Okay, people. So this was an interesting one, right? Just because an email got fired off just yesterday. Shudder has got this new documentary coming, and it's called Sharksploitation. Okay. It is written and directed by Stephen Scarlata, right? It is produced by Scarlata, Kerry Dejnan Roy, and Josh Miller, right? Um, it features interviews with Roger Corman. Um, we've also got Kyle Gutileb, right? Johannes Roberts, Mario Van Peebles, um, Wendy Benchley, right? Peter Benchley. We've also got kind of archival footage, right? So they're involved along with let's see if we can. The IMBD of this is terrible, right? There's just so many people there's no one listed. We got Joe Dante, Tom Chapin, Glenn Campbell, Christian Boog, Jim Burtages, right? Paul Bales, Joe Alvarez, Mark Atkins, Scott Devine, Anthony C. Ferrante, Michael Gingold, Chris Kentis, A. Peter Kimley, David Michael Latt, who else? Michael P. Mercer, Rebecca McKendry, Vanessa Morgan, James Nunn, Mark Pulonia, Christopher Ray, Adam Rifkin, David Rimawa, Johannes Roberts, Rob Shaw, David Schiffman, Matty Simmons, Misty Talley, Vicky Yasquez. Yeah, just to name a few, right? There's a lot of different kind of interviews and that kind of thing, right? So the gist of this whole thing, right? In the wake of blockbuster classic Jaws, a new subgenre was born. This new documentary explores the weird, wide cinematic legacy of sharks on film and the world's undying fascination with them. So, yeah, this is very interesting, right? I thought it was a well done documentary. They talk to so many different people and, look at so many things, you know, like, because I think you remember the way everyone used to talk about Jaws and then the subsequent sequels that came out, there's obviously I was not alive when Jaws hit the cinema, but the reverence it got, right? The way people would talk about this film, like, oh, did you see Jaws? And I remember when I went to the cinema and saw Jaws, it was one of those ones like Star Wars, the way people would be like, oh, I was in the queue. I queued up for this many hours. I remember the first time you sat there and you saw the scroll, right? People would be like, oh, when you first saw the fin and and it was crazy. And so all of that, right? But then you got the following films, you know? Um, you have like then in recent years the sci-fi channel films, right? Sharknado, Shark Octopus, right? Just all of those ones. You have the films like The Meg, Deep Blue Sea, right? Stuff like that. So there's been so many, right? And then the more indie things like 47 meters down, the Reef 2, the Reef 1, what I mean? Just there's been a lot, right? A lot from Shudder, as well. And we definitely covered a few shark films on the podcast, right? So it's looking at all of those things, like the ramifications, the things that came from Jaws, that, people went out hunting sharks, killing sharks, right? So decimating the population of certain sharks, right? So you have all of this, and people talking about their reaction to these films and stuff like that. Now, some of it I'm a bit like, yo, come on, people, right? Some people are doing, yeah, well, I remember when I first saw Jaws, and you just had you were scared in the cinema, thinking that a shark was going to come and eat, and be like, shut up, right? If you thought a shark was going to be in a cinema and eat you, I think you might have taken one too many happy pills, my friend. You know what I mean? Like that, there's biscuits and then there's that, but you're taking them all, right? You're taking them all. Oh man, there's a fun thing about these kind of documentaries sometimes. Like just some of the things people come out with, it is crazy. But there is that big thing, of how some of these low budget films were able to capture the imagination, right? And I think everyone knows the some of the history of Jaws, right? The fact that they didn't have a huge budget, right? Visual effects and special effects were completely different back then, so they had to build a life-size shark, but there wasn't quite the money there, and it didn't always work, right? Which then limited how much screen time the shark got, which in the end made the film a far better film, right? Because it was the suspense of it all. It's like in Alien, because you didn't really see the alien a lot, right? And Predator, you didn't really see the predator a lot. So it's like when you don't see the creature, the monster, that builds that level of suspense. So and I think that's been talked about a lot, but that gets mentioned, obviously. And we heard about the making of 47 meters down, which yeah, sounds kind of brutal. Then it's just all the films that came after that, right? The knockoffs, the rip-offs, the people paying homage. The fact that in the making of some films, people died, sharks were killed, which are just like, yo, if that happened now, shit, studios would be getting sued and fined and just all manner of things. Now, one thing I will say, right, because they're talking about all of this, and the fact that this was created a fear in people, right? It created a fear in people. But back in the day, people weren't as scared of sharks, right? There were these myths and legends and folklore where sharks were revered. What changed? What changed? Why did we look at sharks as gods And then suddenly we're scared of sharks. And I'm a bit like, yo, because when you talk about the places that revered sharks and, I mean, Hawaii, like coastal cities in like Africa and, just in the States and other places, I think it's pretty fucking obvious, right? I think it's fucking obvious why people revered sharks and created these legends. Because when you are dependent on the water, right, when fishing and things like that are your major economy, you don't want people scared of the fucking water, right? So you create these legends. You're like, oh, we love sharks. Sharks are helpful. Sharks don't want to eat you. No, sharks are God, right? Because if everyone's scared, they're not fishing and you're fucked. You're going to be broke, right? So you're creating these things, these myths, right? These stories. So people are like, oh, it's fine going in the water, right? We didn't have the internet. So it's not like when someone's gone missing, we're like, wait, did Steve get eaten by a shark? No. No, Steve went to visit family. Don't be silly. Steve's fine. Like he said, he'll be back in about a month or something, unless something comes up because he's waiting on a big job, and so he might just go to that. Who knows? Right? Be like, oh, okay, I'll go out fishing today then. Right? That's what you're doing. And we're scared of sharks, right? Because, at the time, surfing blew up, right? So then people were surfing. Sharks see surfboards, they think it's seals, right? Or other things they want to eat. So then they started going up and attacking and eating, and but it's like people getting eaten, and the way news started to travel, right? It became a more known thing, right? Then you get the internet, and it's even more so. You know what I mean? But it it reminds me of a joke by Ian Edwards. And if you don't know who Ian Edwards is, people, shame on you. Motherfucker is hilarious, right? Now, he's like, well, is along the lines of, why the fuck are we calling these things shark attacks? Right? It's not a shark attack, right? Because we're in their home. We've just done a home invasion. You know what I mean? That's why motherfuckers be scared of sharks, because we're fucking around in their yard. You know what I mean? We're trespassing. And sharks like, wait, who the fuck is that? Get my gun, motherfucker. You know what I mean? It's hunting season. Let's go. Right? If if you're playing on land, a shark ain't gonna eat you. Well, unless it's Sharknado, Sharkopolis, you know, one of those ones, right? But typically, a shark ain't coming on land, right? So the only time a shark is gonna fuck with you if you're in the water, right? You do stupid things, right? Like the people that went in the sub to go look at the Titanic. That's only happening if you're getting in an ill-equipped and made sub to go look at the Titanic. You're not gonna die if you're just watching a James Cameron documentary about the Titanic. You know what I mean, people? Right? So it's just like, the fear is because people are being even more reckless, right? They're fucking around in the water, right? How many times have we heard stories of the notice coming up and people being told, okay, there's sightings in the water, don't go in the water, or just, there's flags, there's red flags showing do not go in the water, but you've got people going, yeah, it's fine going in the water and getting eaten, getting attacked. Yo, you were warned, motherfucker. Right? That it's it's always dangerous, but right now it's even more so. Right? And they were like, oh, and people were scared of going in reservoirs and lakes. Now, people were scared of going in reservoirs and lakes because people were buying exotic animals as pets. People were buying sharks, people were buying alligators, pythons, all of this kind of thing, and then getting bored, right? Or going, hold on, I didn't think that was going to grow, and then dumping those animals in lakes, in other bodies of water, and things like that. So, where a lake used to be fine, sometimes people would go swimming and then they're getting attacked, eaten, bit, killed, injured, maimed, all these things, right? So, that's the worry, right? That's the worry. It's not like the fear isn't irrational. Irrational? What's the opposite of irrational? That's the word. Irrational. Yeah, it's not irrational. These are very, very logical fears and concerns, right? But the documentary is like, yeah, why are people scared? This is kind of crazy. It is not. It is not. And all these people that want to go diving with sharks, yeah, right? Let's revisit them 5 years, 10 years time. Are they still around? Have they got all their limbs still? Right? That's the question. A lot of surfers are missing arms and legs because of shark attacks, right? People that do the swim across to Alcatraz and just other just stupid things like that, they're getting attacked, they're getting bitten. So, I was a little bit, this documentary is jokes. The way it's trying to act like, you know what I mean? There's nothing to be scared of. But as I say, listen, it is good. I did think it was well done. And you get an interesting insight, right? Just how Roger Corman kind of came up with ideas, how Asylum would just play games with names and go, yeah, let's make a movie on that, right? So if all of this is fascinating, this is a good documentary to watch. Something else they pointed out? Crocodiles is also a subgenre of the shark film, which I'm a bit like, really? Hmm. You know, I did think that was a little stretch, but they're like anything that you might find in the water is kind of an offshoot of the shark genre. You know, kind of makes sense. A little bit of a stretch, maybe. But, we've covered a lot of crocodile, alligator films as well. So, you know, whatever, people. But yeah, this documentary, Sharksploitation, it is obviously it's a Shudder original, so it's on Shudder, people. You know what I mean? So yeah, I would say if this genre of films, if you do like a shark, crocodile, mega monster, like the Meg type of thing, and they did talk about the Meg, right? People were saying the Meg is real. No, the Meg, the megalodon, and other large sharks did exist in prehistoric times, right? Not anymore. Because, and like, there's no chance of this, being around still. Just because, right, like a dinosaur, they would have to consume so much to live, right? They're so big, right? When you just think about like bodybuilders, they have to eat so much for the energy. Same with a big fucking dinosaur and a big motherfucking shark, right? So if there was one actually alive, there'd be so much carnage, right? You'd just be like so many things eaten and you would know, right? That kind of thing ain't hiding. It ain't hiding because it's got away, right? So them talk about that. So yeah, if they're your jam people, then right, the 21st is the date for your calendar. Go mark it down and check out Sharksploitation on Shudder.